What a great community we have here in the world of power sports. And you know, everyone has their own reason for recreating on 2 or 4 wheels. And there's a new documentary that is getting into theaters around the country. It's called Why We Ride. And we had a chance to visit the offices of Brian H. Carroll, a producer and director of this full-length feature film. First the trailer, and then our talk with Brian.
It's a bombardment of the senses. Everything goes into slow motion.
It's passion.
This is the thing that makes me happy.
It becomes part of your life. It gets in your blood.
It's just the best feeling in the world.
It's so much fun to ride a motorcycle.
It is a love affair like no other. There's a freedom about it.
Once you try it, if you like it, you'll never leave it.
It's you and your motorcycle. That's it.
Motorcycles literally were bicycles that somebody finally came up with the idea of putting an engine in it.
Of course, if you got an engine in a motorcycle, the next thing is you got to start racing it.
Some of the greatest riders of all time.
They were badass. They were real men. Some people have it inside. It's a seed. And if you ever put the water on it and you feel the sensation, the seed is sprouted, and it doesn't die till the day you take your last breath.
I was probably 6 years old and I saw a mini bike, and I was hooked.
The first time I rode, I just felt like I could do anything.
How do you stop it? How do you stop it?
I was so excited to know that I was going to ride my bike the next day, and I still feel that today, every day.
I think it's like trying to learn how to play a violin. It's just hideous, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I know how to ride this thing now.
Motorcycles have put me in touch with wonderful people. As a result of that, I have an elevated idea about how good everybody in the world is.
Motorcycles and family, they just go together.
I totally see myself teaching my kids if I have any, which I do want some.
It's my release. It's my medicine in this crazy world.
I cannot tell you the wonderful feeling of being on that machine.
I ride because there's nothing like it in the world, and I could never imagine not doing it.
Don't be scared, it's fun. I'll cheer you on.
You know, we had a script, I guess we got about 2-3 years ago, about motorcycle racing in the 30s. And it particularly was about Ed Kretz Sr., who was the first winner of the very first Daytona 200. And so we had the opportunity to go up and visit with the late Ed Kretz Jr. up in his house in Denver. And I got to spend about 4 hours with Ed Jr. And I was sitting there in this amazing garage filled with like all this nostalgia of the history of the Kretz family and all their racing. And, you know, Jr.'s a Hall of Famer as well. So as I'm sitting there about an hour, hour and a half in, I started realizing we weren't just talking about Ed and racing. What I kept hearing was there was this overall emphasis on friends and family and connection. And the stories he was telling was about these journeys and how their whole life revolved around this motorcycle and how important family was to that. And I really started thinking about my own life, and this thing just kind of went off in my head like, this like spark just said like, wait a minute, I grew up around motorcycles my whole life. Some of my favorite times were on motorcycles. The very first piece of film, 8 millimeter film that exists of me is riding on the tank of my father's 1971 Enduro when I was 3 years old, holding onto the handlebars coming into the driveway. It's this little 8-second piece. And I said, I have a family now. I have kids. Why did I stop riding? Why am I not allowing them to have the same experience as I did? And that's where the why came. And I went, you know what? My whole life has been about why. It's not about what, how. This is what I'm doing next. Why do we ride? What is that? And as I started talking to more of my friends and other people, a lot of us had this same thing, like, yeah, we used to ride, and now we got kids and families, we went on to it. So that moment, I knew what my next project was, and it was Why We Ride. We started putting it together around my dining room table back in June of last year, of 2012. By July, we had a pretty good idea of what we wanted to do, and in August, we had a small crew, camera, a little bit of money, and took off to Sturgis. And went up to Sturgis, didn't know who we were going to talk to, didn't know what we were going to find, and that was the greatest part about it. And just started meeting people in Sturgis. Met the curator of the museum up in Sturgis, and she started introducing us to people, and met the Clocks, and then we met Dave Barr, and that's how it all sprung. We started doing interviews up there, and that's kind of how it all took off, was that one trip to Sturgis. I mean, this movie has changed my life. It really has. It has changed so many things, and I knew going into this movie that if I wasn't changed by the end of this, I didn't do my job. I believe that if I'm going to go after something as passionate as this, you have to leave it all on the field. And you have to walk away from this going, I gave it everything I did. The thing that surprised me, and the biggest impact I had, was the families. This group, if you have a motorcycle, you're never alone. You don't have a choice. You can't drive down the road without another motorcyclist waving to you. You know, you pull into a lot, another motorcyclist will come up to you. And I didn't truly understand that, how important that is, and how, like, if somebody says to me, you know, I don't have many friends, I just moved here, I'm like, do you ride? No, learn to ride, get a motorcycle, you will have more friends than you know what to do with. That's the one thing I can say about this group and this community, is they are the most inviting community I've ever seen. And that was probably the biggest impact it had on me, was really seeing that camaraderie and that common, that connective tissue that motorcyclists have with each other. And really, this is a much bigger story. This group is, you are part of something really big if you ride a motorcycle. In 2008, when I kind of left the studio system and started my own production company, I knew two things. I wanted to make movies that my children could watch, and I wanted to make movies that showed my children what was important to me and what was important in life. And one of the overall kind of tones throughout the entire process of making this movie was quality of life. And while I was making this movie, that was the one thing that always rose, is how important quality of life is, and how important each day is, and how important it is to have a passion. And these are all things I try to install in my children. And when I talk to people after they've watched this movie, especially people who are not motorcyclists, the one thing that I hope they get out of it, and I feel they do get out of it, is even if you're not passionate about motorcycles, if you're passionate about anything in life, you tend to root for people who are passionate about things. So, and coming out of this, I'll talk to people who are not into motorcycles, but they're rooting for people who are passionate because they have a passion. And that's the thing I hope people bring out from this, is to, if you have a passion about something, go after that passion 100% with everything you have, and realize how important it is each day we are here, and how important quality of life is, and every day counts. And as you saw the movie, I mean, that's kind of the last line in the movie. It's directed right at that. We're working with dealers now. We have a dealer tour kind of thing set up where they can help us bring it to their community. So they can host a screening, and then we still have hard costs, print costs, stuff like that still have to be paid for. So they can help with that to get it into a theater near them, in their community, and then fans can buy tickets and actually go to the theater in their communities. We're working directly on a project called the Why We Ride Tour, which is a vehicle for dealerships to help bring it to their community and help support their community. That'll starting actually right after our theater run, so that'll start next week if dealers want to come in and sign up and help to do that kind of stuff. Right now, the best thing to do is to follow us. Go to our webpage, which is whyweridefilm.com. We have a Twitter account up there, and we have a Facebook account. We're constantly, everything that we do is going up on that Facebook. We have almost 60,000 followers already, which is great. Daily people, and it's a lot of fun too, because a lot of the people who are following us are also sending us pictures of their rides, and it's a real communal place, which is so important to this. So I would go to www.whyweridefilm.com. Start there. We have questions and answers. Anything new that's coming, sign up on there with we'll take your name, and if it's coming to a theater near you, we will email you that we're coming out that way. There's also a page on there for screenings. We'll show every screening in the country where it's happening. And then for dealers, go to whyweridetour.com, and there you'll be able to access Mike Schell, and he can show you what the tour, what that consists of, and how maybe as a dealership you can help support your community and bring that show to your community.